Many women who hope to become pregnant expect to experience some stress around the timing, the conception, and the major life changes. But few are truly prepared for those awkward early weeks at work when you're not quite ready to share the news, so you're attempting to dress in a way that keeps things under wraps, trying to manage doctor's appointments discreetly, and doing your best to keep from letting on that you're exhausted or nauseous. For Sarah LaFleur, founder of LaFleur, she was even less prepared to experience those things while undergoing IVF, an experience that had her juggling her packed travel schedule with frequent doctor's appointments, going through weight fluctuations because of the hormones, and eventually figuring out how to dress her pregnant body during a pandemic. In the end, it was all worth it. She welcomed her son in August, and in September, her surrogate delivered twins, a girl and a boy. LaFleur, who launched her company in 2013, decided in 2017 to try for a family with her husband Chris. On the recommendation of a friend, she visited a specialist to have her health evaluated before attempting to conceive. The doctors basically laughed at us, she remembers. They were like, "Why are you even here? You haven't even started trying." As it turned out, however, LaFleur was born with a congenital condition called unicornuate uterus, which would make getting pregnant complicated. There's very, very little that's actually known about this, just academically, scientifically, she explains. There was a whole gamut of doctors saying you might want to consider surrogacy just off the bat. LaFleur was open to it, but decided to pursue a few other avenues, including IVF first, which meant she was experiencing all the challenges of IVF at the same time as her company was growing rapidly and demanding all of her attention. My company at the time was like 250 people. Every day you walk in, people are like, "What's the deal? What are we doing? Where are we going?" It's such an intense period, she said. And simultaneously, I'm also going through IVF, which was really one of the most time-consuming activities I've ever done. That's when the clothing challenges came in. There really isn't a lot of literature out there on it. What do you wear when you're doing IVF? Or what do you wear when you have to inject yourself every day and every night, she says. The irony is that after egg retrieval, you look like you're 4 months pregnant. I mean, you're so bloated and quite uncomfortable. And so I was just wearing a lot of pretty boxy styles. That was like my power outfit. I didn't want to draw attention to my stomach. There was also the day that a colleague noticed the bandages on her arm from her blood draws and commented, "Usually when I see women in their 30s with band-aids in that area, I know what that means," she recalls. And I was like, "I know you think you know what it means, but it doesn't mean that at all." She wore long sleeves, shawls, and cardigans to cover her arms. I just didn't want people asking questions. Sometimes I just didn't have the energy to explain what I was going through, she said. Ultimately, I went through 3 rounds of IVF, so I think there was a lot of using clothing as armor throughout the process. As she pursued IVF without success, LaFleur decided to simultaneously look into surrogacy, only to find out she was pregnant shortly before successfully transferring 2 embryos to her surrogate. Honestly, there was this moment when we found out she was carrying twins where I was like, "Holy shit, we might end up with 3, she continued. It miraculously ended up working out. Complicating all of it was COVID, although it did take out some of the clothing complications she was experiencing. Come March, I was like, "Oh my god, I'm gonna walk around naked for all I care," she jokes. But I made my own pants. You know those Bella bands? I bought a bunch and took our best-selling pants, the Hockleys, to my dry cleaners and had them sew them on. I made 3 of those, and that's all I wore throughout my pregnancy. All 3 babies arrived within a few weeks of each other in the late summer of 2021. And in addition to all the other learning curves that come with having 3 newborns in your home, LaFleur says she's still learning how to dress for this new phase in her life, too. Even now, months post-giving birth, my body's still very much in transition, and not at all the way it was pre-pregnancy, she says. While I didn't know it at the time, it turns out that IVF wear is not so different from postpartum wear, and the same pieces have ended up being my go-to pieces of clothing years later. She credits clothes for being a pick-me-up, both now, in this hazy time of life, as well as through her most difficult moments with her fertility journey. So much so that she even put together a presentation for her company on all the ways clothes were a part of her story. Infertility is such an emotionally trying time, but thinking of the small comforts can, I think, really help you through this journey, she says. For me, obviously, it was my husband and my friends, but clothing was a huge part of what got me through this. And I want to share those stories more because, again, pregnancy fashion is such a thing. But I want IVF fashion to be something that we can all talk about too.